Moses is a central figure in Judaism, Christianity and Islam, revered as a prophet, lawgiver and leader who guided the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt to the Promised Land. His story, primarily found in the biblical book of Exodus and supplemented by other texts like the Torah, New Testament and Quran, blends historical, religious and cultural significance. Below is a concise overview of his life and legacy, keeping within the 4,000-character limit. Early life Moses was born to Hebrew parents, Amram and Jochebed, during a time when the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. To save him from Pharaoh's decree to kill all newborn Hebrew males, Jochebed placed Moses in a basket on the Nile River. He was discovered by Pharaoh's daughter, who raised him as her own in the Egyptian court, giving him an upbringing that blended Hebrew heritage with Egyptian privilege. Called to leadership as an adult, Moses fled Egypt after killing an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave. He settled in Midian, married Zipporah, and worked as a shepherd. At Mount Horeb, God appeared to Moses in a burning bush, commissioning him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Despite his initial reluctance, citing his lack of eloquence, God reassured him, appointing his brother Aaron as his spokesperson. The Exodus Moses confronted Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Israelites. When Pharaoh refused, God sent 10 plagues, culminating in the Passover, where the death of Egypt's firstborn prompted Pharaoh to relent. Moses led the Israelites out, crossing the Red Sea, which miraculously parted. This event, known as the Exodus, is a foundational narrative in Judaism, symbolizing liberation and divine deliverance. Sinai and the law at Mount Sinai. Moses received the 10 Commandments and other laws from God, forming the covenant between God and the Israelites. He spent 40 days on the mountain, receiving instructions for the tabernacle and priesthood. However, the Israelites, fearing Moses' delay, worshipped a golden calf, leading to divine judgment and Moses' intercession to restore the covenant. Wilderness wanderings, Moses led the Israelites through the desert for 40 years, facing challenges like rebellion, hunger, and conflict. He performed miracles such as providing water from a rock and manna from heaven. Despite his faithfulness, Moses was barred from entering the Promised Land due to an incident of disobedience at Meribah, where he struck a rock instead of speaking to it as God commanded. Death and legacy: Moses died at 120 on Mount Nebo, overlooking the Promised Land. His successor Joshua led the Israelites into Canaan. Moses' legacy endures as the mediator of God's law, a symbol of liberation, and a model of prophetic leadership. In Judaism, he is Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, the greatest prophet. Christianity views him as a precursor to Christ, while in Islam he is Musa, a major prophet who received the Torah. Cultural impact: Moses' story has shaped art, literature and political movements. His image as a liberator inspired figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and movements for freedom worldwide. Archaeological evidence for the Exodus is debated, with no definitive proof, but the narrative's spiritual and cultural weight remains profound. Sources: the primary source is the Book of Exodus, with additional details in Numbers, Deuteronomy and the